So welcome everyone to our Staying Well Together series. Once again, we're fortunate to have Joanne Smith with us today. I'm going to give you a little bit of a bio for her. Joanne is a certified nutritional practitioner who specializes in working with individuals with neurological conditions, such as spinal cord injuries and brain injuries. She's written several books. She's spoken across North America at hospitals and research centers. She's written for many magazines, and she's even hosted some television shows. So as always, we're very honored and pleased to have Joanne with us. So I will turn it over to her.
Thank you, Dan. Hi, everybody. Great to be back. Thanks for joining us. And Dan is going to run the PowerPoint. So I'm just going to wait till he gets that up. And then we can start on the immune system.
Yep, sorry about that. I mean, I have it open, then I'm like, oh shoot, I've got to like share my screen and everything. It's my first day using Zoom, folks. All right, sorry about that. Here we go.
Okay. There we go. And let me just... Okay, so there we go. So today we're talking about supporting immune function. Obviously, supporting immune function has been front and center for the past year now because of COVID. So we definitely want to keep our immune system strong. I mean, we're turning a corner with vaccinations that are coming out now, which is great. But as I'm going to talk about, people with disabilities need to protect and support their immune system all year round, whether without COVID or vaccines, because we're, susceptible to all sorts of other viruses and bacteria. So today I'm going to cover important nutrients, foods, and supplements needed to support your immune system. And as always, if we go to the next slide, I have the medical disclaimer right there. We are going to be discussing nutrient supplements today, and I strongly advise everyone consult with medical healthcare providers, physicians, if you decide to introduce any new supplements into your regime that I might be speaking about today, because there can be some contraindications. Just for example, fish oils, they are natural blood thinners. So if you're on a prescription blood thinner like warfarin, it can actually do double duty and enhance the blood thinning effect. So always consult with your doctor first before starting anything new. I also want to mention that we're going to talk about a healthy diet to optimize immune function. But I do have to say that eating really well and taking all the supplements I'm going to mention is not necessarily going to guarantee that you're not going to get sick or get an infection. But what it will do is provide your body with all the right tools that you need to fight an infection really well if you do get sick. And that's what's really important. Okay, so if we go to our agenda on the next slide there, we're going to be talking about disability and our increased susceptibility to getting any kind of virus or infection, bacteria. I'm going to talk about supplements and foods that you need to enhance your immune system. I'm going to go over a budget-wise shopping list to stock your cupboards full and to help protect yourself. And also some other health tips that can also just be a little bonus added prevention to your immune system fight here. So we'll do that at the end. So let's get started here with the first slide. People with disabilities are at increased risk of getting sick for a multitude of reasons. And for those of you who were at my last presentation last month, you might actually recognize the next slide. And it's about our body systems and how they communicate, interact, and influence each other. I put this in my last presentation as well because it's so applicable to people with disabilities. And you'll remember if you were at my last presentation that I was talking about body systems and how we tend to identify and talk about them as separate systems: the nervous system, the immune system, the hormone system, because it's just easy to understand them that way. But in fact, at every waking moment, whether we're asleep or we're awake, these systems are talking to each other, they're influencing each other. And if you have dysfunction in one system, say the nervous system, maybe you have MS or a spinal cord injury, that dysfunction will affect negatively, say, the immune system that we're talking about today. So that's one of the first reasons why people with disabilities, chronic disabilities, tend to be at higher risk of getting sick, because our disability can actually weaken our immune system. So that's one reason. The next slide, the reason people with disabilities are at increased risk of getting sick, actually, if we can move on to the next slide here, is stress. So this is another big factor. This actually increases our risk of getting ill, which may sound strange, but studies clearly demonstrate that people with disabilities live with increased mental, emotional, and or physical stress in the form of pain. And one or all of these actually weaken our immune system and make us actually what's called immunosuppressed. When the body is under stress of any kind, there is an increased release of what's called stress hormones, things like cortisol. And chronic cortisol release from stress contributes to inflammation in the body. Tissue inflammation is what I'm referring to. And when you have chronic tissue inflammation, this in turn can deplete critical nutrients like vitamin C, which is necessary to support the immune function. Another interesting fact is psychological stress actually suppresses cellular immunity through depression of what's called natural killer cells. Natural killer cells are like the policemen that patrol our blood and our lymph system, and they destroy cells that have become infected. So psychological stress, if it's suppressing natural killer cells, is going to suppress your ability to fight any infection that's in your body. And the other thing is stress, as we all know, we've all been there, can actually lead to poor dietary choices, overeating, things like comfort foods. And if you're overeating sugar, comfort foods, or junk food, and you're having weight gain can also suppress your immune system. So that's another reason why we're more at risk of stress. The next slide here is that we tend to have poor diets, following what I was just saying about stress and comfort eating. People with disabilities tend to have poor diets and nutrient deficiencies for many reasons, like change in economic status, decreased ability maybe to get out and get to the grocery store to buy healthy foods. There might also be digestive dysfunction depending on your disability, so decreased ability to break down, absorb nutrients. And maybe you have decreased dexterity in your hands, so it's more difficult to prepare healthy foods. Or maybe you're just tired. A lot of disabilities and medications can contribute to fatigue, so you just don't feel like making a healthy dinner, a healthy lunch. And all of these factors can impact nutrient levels in your body, which impact the immune system. We move to the next slide, please, Dan. Another reason why certain disabilities are at risk of infection, if we talk about paralysis, perhaps a spinal cord injury, paraplegia, quadriplegia, if you have weakened or paralyzed abdominal muscles, intercostal or diaphragm muscles, this decreases the ability to effectively cough and clear debris from your lungs. The Christopher Reeve Foundation during COVID, maybe about 6 months ago, explained in one of their articles that coughing helps disrupt viruses and bacteria from making a home in your lungs. So if you think of it that way, you visualize that, just knowing that they're living in there and making themselves quite comfortable and reproducing, the ability to cough gets them out. But if you don't have the strength in your intercostal muscles to cough, or your diaphragm, then it makes it much riskier for you to get sick. Okay, another reason is many people with disabilities have decreased mobility, which means they have decreased activation of something called your lymphatic system. So your lymphatic system is part of your overall circulatory system. And in fact, the lymph system and the lymph vessels parallel or mirror your cardiovascular arteries and veins. It also, what the lymph system does is it plays a very important role in your immune function, because your lymph vessels and your lymph nodes are where your immune system actually live. So your lymph fluid in your lymph vessels actually contains things called antibodies and lymphocytes, which are good bacteria, to help destroy infectious bacteria and viruses. And the lymph system also helps gets rid of toxins, waste, destroyed bacteria, because it transports it from the lymph system into the blood system, where it's eventually eliminated. But here's the thing, here's the catch, is the lymph system doesn't have a pump. Your cardiovascular system does have a pump. It's your heart, and that heart pump muscle will pump your blood through your body. The lymph system doesn't have a pump. The only way the lymph system moves to get rid of that bacteria, the toxins, and the waste is by movement. But if you have decreased ability to move, or you're paralyzed, then it's difficult to move that lymph around. So massages are great for helping to move lymph. Any movement you can do is really important to get that lymph moving and get those toxins out of your system. And another reason, the next slide, that people with disabilities tend to be at increased risk is it's our increased exposure to infections and bacteria, often because of our mobility aids, whether it's a wheelchair, a cane, a walker. Our hands are constantly touching things that able-bodied people might not be touching. So we're wheeling, our wheels are hitting the ground, and then it's all over our hands, then we might touch our face. I'm also very guilty in my wheelchair of pushing off walls, pushing off countertops and doors as I'm moving through a room. So again, I'm constantly exposing my hands to more infections, and then you touch your face, your ears, your eyes, whatever, your nose, your increased risk of getting sick. So those are many reasons why people with disabilities are increased risk of getting sick in the first place. I've given you a lot of explanations, but there's lots of things. The good news is lots of things to do to strengthen your immune function. Now, I know when you're stressed, it's really easy, especially over the last year, to eat comfort foods, cakes and cookies that make us feel good in the moment. But to support your immune system, for all the reasons I just mentioned, you really need to focus on eating unprocessed, healthy foods as much as you can. Viruses, the actual term in Latin, it actually means poison, and they've been around since the beginning of time. But viruses actually need a host to live in, when your host is your body. So you want to make your body, your own little host there, as inhospitable and unfriendly to viruses and bacteria as much as possible. And how can you do that? It's by creating a really strong immune system, by eating all the vitamins and the minerals and the nutrients your body needs to build a strong host that can fight these viruses and these bacteria off. Okay, so I'm going to talk a little bit today. I'm going to be talking about vitamins and minerals and nutrients to support your immune system. You're also going to hear me talk about anti-inflammatory properties of certain things as well. And this is really important because I talked a few minutes ago about stress, cortisol, increasing tissue inflammation. And tissue inflammation weakens the immune system. So as well as eating lots of good vitamins and minerals, you want to eat an anti-inflammatory diet to help support your immune system. Okay, so here we go. Here are my top 10 nutrients to build a strong immune system and reduce inflammation at the same time. So number one here, no surprise, we've all been told this since we were kids, vitamin C. This is so good for our immune system. Interestingly, we are one of the very rare animals that does not produce vitamin C. Therefore, we must get it through our food. We also don't store vitamin C in our body. We're continuously eliminating it through our urine. So we want to have a continuous supply of vitamin C in our foods throughout the day. The immune system is particularly vulnerable to things called free radicals. Free radicals actually damage tissues and cause inflammation in the body. And a lot of things can contribute to free radicals: the air we breathe, pollution, pain medication, stress, viruses, and bacteria all create free radicals. The beautiful thing is vitamin C is what's considered an antioxidant, so it neutralizes these free radicals. So if you get sick and you've got lots of free radicals going on, the vitamin C will help squash them. That's one of the ways it can actually help support your immune system. So the other thing is vitamin C is a really powerful antioxidant that helps reduce that tissue damage in your lungs. And we know this is extremely important during COVID because it tends to attack the So lots of vitamin C to protect yourself. Vitamin C is also a natural antibacterial. So it helps activate neutrophils, powerful white blood cells that work on our frontline defense. It also increases production of lymphocytes, which are white blood cells that play an important role in antibody production and coordinating immune functions. Interestingly, vitamin C helps slow viral reproduction. So again, going back to COVID. Vitamin C, I was just saying, it's really quickly utilized and then eliminated out of the system. So you want to make sure you're having lots of foods throughout the day that contain vitamin C. So we all know things like citrus fruits, lemons, limes, oranges, those are great. But even better sources of vitamin C are berries. Pick your favorite berry, strawberries, blackberries, blueberries. Eat those, say, for breakfast in a smoothie or in your yogurt. Red and green peppers are also amazing for vitamin C. So is broccoli or any other green leafy vegetable. Get that into your diet throughout the day. So there's lots of different ways you can enjoy vitamin C and boost your immune system. All right, so that's the first nutrient. The next one is vitamin A. So vitamin A has natural antiviral properties. It also helps enhance activity of those white blood cells that I keep mentioning. It helps proper maturation of immune cells. And about 90% of vitamin A is stored in the liver. And the liver has a capacity to actually store enough vitamin A to last us several months. But here's the thing, a deficiency of vitamin A suppresses our immunity and interferes with our body's ability to form a rapid response to any kind of infection we may be exposed to. So specifically, vitamin A deficiency reduces the number of natural killer cells. I was just talking about earlier, the policemen in our blood and lymph system, and they play an important role in that antiviral immunity. Therefore, you really want to make sure you're topped up on vitamin A rich foods. And these are the orange, the red, the yellow foods. So carrots and red peppers, yellow peppers, orange peppers. You can also get them in oranges, tangerines, carrots, dark green leafy vegetables. So get lots of these also in your diet, maybe not on a daily basis because we can store vitamin A, but definitely on a weekly basis, you want to be getting that into your system, okay? The next one, and this is a big one, is vitamin D. This is huge for us living in Canada because we tend to be deficient in it because of where we live and not enough exposure to sun. Okay, so vitamin A, it is a vitamin, but what's interesting about this vitamin is it's also a hormone. Hormones are chemical messengers, and vitamin D is one of the best what's called immunomodulators, which means it has a very positive influence on our immune system. It also helps protect against respiratory infections. And studies show that supplementing with vitamin D can reduce the rate of respiratory infections by more than 50%. That's huge. That makes a big, big difference. But like I said, we tend to be deficient in it because we're not getting enough sun. You can get some food sources, like there's some vitamin D in eggs, cod liver oil. Most people are not a fan of the cod liver oil, but you know, you can have 7-8 eggs a week throughout the week. But I'll be talking about later is to get out into the sunshine. That's the best way, and take some supplements of it. Absolutely, really important to take supplements all year round. I'll talk in a few minutes about how much to be taking. Okay, next nutrient you want to top up on to support your immune system is selenium. This is a mineral. It's also a great antioxidant to help reduce that free radical damage I was talking about with vitamin C. It has strong anti-inflammatory properties. And it also stimulates white blood cells like those natural killer cells. So it's great. So here's some sources for you. Brazil nuts. You only need 2 a day to get the amount of selenium you need. So maybe go to Bulk Barn or No Frills or wherever you shop and get a bag of Brazil nuts and snack on 2 a day. Easy peasy. You can also get selenium in eggs, fish, and yogurt. Okay, so make sure you get that into your diet. The next mineral I want to talk about is zinc. So zinc enhances the immune function, again, by activating white blood cells. People are more susceptible to infectious diseases when they have a zinc deficiency. Studies show that even a marginal zinc deficiency can really significantly depress your immune system. So where do you get zinc? Again, another thing to snack on, pumpkin seeds. So maybe when you go to the Bulk Barn, load up on pumpkin seeds, mix them with your Brazil nuts, and at least once a day snack on these. Beef also has zinc, yogurt, and also shellfish, oysters, clams, mussels. But if you're not a fan of those, easiest thing is just get some pumpkin seeds. It's also really nice to sprinkle pumpkin seeds in your yogurt in the morning, okay? The next thing I'm recommending you do is get lots of good, healthy fats, omega-3 healthy fats in your diet. Why? Because these are one of the best natural anti-inflammatories, and it has a host of other really great benefits for your heart, for your joints, for your skin. Sources of really good, healthy omega-3s, of course, are fish. You want to be eating fish 3 or 4 times a week. And I've listed some really great ones like salmon, sardines, mackerel. Picking whichever ones you like there 3 or 4 times a week. Walnuts are a great source, and flax seeds or flaxseed oil. Okay, so get those into your system. Another nutrient I want to talk about are probiotics. So probiotics are actually healthy bacteria, and we have trillions of them in our guts, in our intestines, our small, our large intestines. They make up about 2 to 3 pounds of our entire body weight. That's how much we have in our system. And why they're important is the digestive tract plays a very important role in the immune system because your intestines hold the largest mass of that lymphatic tissue I was talking about earlier. 70% of our immune system surrounds our gut. So you want to protect your gut, make your gut as healthy as possible. And one of the best ways to do that is to get lots of good probiotics in your system. Like vitamin D, probiotics are also immune modulators, which means they have a very positive influence on the immune system. And good bacteria helps to disassemble toxins in the gut and also acts like a surveillance system for the immune system to limit intestinal inflammation. So again, going back to inflammation again. So where do you get these good bacteria? You get them in fermented foods like yogurt, sauerkraut, fermented vegetables you can find in your supermarket. Miso, soup, kefir are great sources. Okay, and next, moving on, number 8, herbs and spices. Okay, again, these are natural anti-inflammatories. They also make our food taste amazing. A study came out recently in 2020, last year, that showed just 6 grams of a spice, that's only like 1 teaspoon to 1 tablespoon, depending on the spice, reduces inflammation in our system. So whether it be garlic, ginger, basil, cinnamon, coriander, oregano, parsley, whichever your favorite ones are, add them to your foods to give yourself a nice immune boost. And on the next slide, I want to talk about one in particular, turmeric. This is a spice, but what it does is it contains a compound called curcumin, which is a very powerful natural anti-inflammatory like omega-3 fats. So again, add this to your favorite dishes. You can drink it as a tea. You can also take it in supplement form. This is great for your immune system. All right, moving right along here to number 9, mushrooms. A lot of people don't think about mushrooms as immune boosters, but they really are. They're very high in antioxidants. They also contain some vitamin D that I just talked about, and they contain something called beta glucans, which are found in the cell wall of mushrooms, and they stimulate those natural killer cells I was talking about. I've mentioned a couple here in particular. There are over 500,000 different types of mushrooms, but 3 here, there's actually 2 of them here are really, really important. And you can actually buy these quite easily. There's the reishi mushroom. This supports immune function by enhancing activity of the white blood cells. It stimulates circulation, which is great, and reduces inflammation. So reishi mushrooms, get those in your system. Or the chaga mushroom. This is extremely high in vitamins, minerals, antioxidants. And what's really nice is people are starting to catch on to the importance of mushrooms and their immune boosting properties. So you can actually buy coffee infused with mushrooms or tea infused with mushrooms. There's one company called Four Sigmatics that's one that I use. I have nothing to do with this company, but I just think their products are great. They deliver to your door. They have lots of teas and coffees that are mushroom infused, and they're great. They taste amazing. Okay, or just cook with them. Go to your local supermarket and get lots of mushrooms and cook them in a stir fry, put them in a stew. They're fantastic. All right, speaking of teas, the next one here, number 10, my last tip, is green tea. Okay, very high in antioxidants. It contains something called EGCG, which has antiviral properties and anti-inflammatory properties. So drink your green tea to your heart's content. It's wonderful, okay? All right, so those are my top 10 things. So introducing certain foods and nutrients into your diet is very important, but equally as important to support your immune system is to eliminate certain things that can actually reduce your immune function. And I've listed these here because they reduce immune function and they also cause inflammation. Okay, so sugar. This is one of the worst things, refined sugar. Not talking sugar in your fruit, the natural sugars. It's processed refined sugar that you might put in your coffee or your tea. The World Health Organization and the Heart and Stroke Foundation recommend no more than 6 teaspoons of sugar a day for females and no more than 9 teaspoons of sugar a day for males. The average person in North America consumes 22 teaspoons of processed refined sugar a day. That's 2 to 3 times the recommended amount. It's horrific for your immune system and your overall health. Studies show that the more sugar you consume, the more impaired your immune function becomes. And what's really fascinating here, it's because sugar and the vitamin C as molecules in your system are very, very similar in structure. So if you get sick and your cells are looking for vitamin C in your blood to suck up because it needs it to support the immune system, and yet you have a ton of sugar in your diet, your blood, because you've been drinking and eating it all day, because they're so similar in structure, your cells will suck up the sugar in your blood instead of the vitamin C, and then your cells can't fight as well. It's really, really, really interesting. The other interesting point about sugar is just 1 teaspoon of sugar reduces your white blood cell production count up to 50% for up to 4 hours after eating. So if you think people are drinking 22 teaspoons of sugar throughout the day, and 1 teaspoon suppresses your immune system by 50% for up to 4 hours after, some people are suppressing their immune system throughout the entire day by the amount of processed sugar that they're consuming. And often people don't count what they drink as sugar content, but you can drink so much sugar, whether it's in, say, a sport drink or a can of pop or what you add to your coffee. So really be cognizant of how much processed sugar you're consuming. The other thing I talk about here is cow's milk. Cow's milk is very mucus producing, and mucus inhibits immune function and can contribute to increase of respiratory illnesses and congestion. So get rid of the cow's milk in your system to support your immune function. And salt, this is what's really interesting. This came out last year in a study as well. They showed that too much salt actually decreases your immune defense as well. We should not be eating more than 5 grams of salt a day. Most people are eating 2 or 3 times that as well. So really watch your salt intake. And they say about 70 to 75% of our salt intakes comes from processed foods. So if you reduce the processed foods, then you're reducing the sugar and you're also reducing your salt. Okay, so watch that. The next slide I listed here is a nutrient-dense, cost-effective shopping list. So the foods all listed here are just really economical foods that you might want to store your cupboards, your fridge, your freezer with to make sure you've got immune-boosting foods on hand all the time. Okay, so these are just kind of staples to have in your kitchen all the time. I do want to talk about supplements on the next slide, because it's really important to eat the foods I was mentioning, but you might want to consider topping up as well with supplements of these. So I want to go on to the supplements and recommend the dosages. Again, though, check with your physician first, but if you are to have these, this is what I would recommend. Vitamin C, 1,000 milligrams of vitamin C a day. Again, because we eliminate it quite quickly, take 1 in the morning, 1 in the evening. You want to maybe look for vitamin C as buffered. What that means is it reduces stomach upset, because for some people it can cause loose stools or stomach upset. And vitamin D, 2 to 4 1,000 international units a day. Best to take it with food for best absorption. So again, just load up your system with that vitamin D. It can make a big difference to your immune function. Probiotics I talked about, like in yogurt or kefir or kombucha, but I would also recommend taking a probiotic supplement. with a minimum of 15 to 30 billion microorganisms per capsule, 1 a day to protect your immune system. Also helps with bowel function. It's fantastic. Okay, the next thing, I talked about turmeric and I talked about curcumin. So curcumin is the compound in turmeric. You can actually get turmeric pills or curcumin pills. You can get both. What I recommend as an anti-inflammatory is 2 to 400 milligrams a day in divided doses. So 1 or 2 in the morning, 1 or 2 in the evening. I also do recommend omega-3 supplements. You can again take 2 to 1,000 milligrams a day. Split them up. Again, check with your health provider first because they are natural blood thinners, and they're also going to help take care of your cardiovascular system and your joint health and help skin integrity. So those are really important. Also zinc. You might want to be considered taking zinc if you don't like any of the foods that I listed there that contain zinc, 30 to 50 milligrams. With zinc, you want to take it no more than 8 weeks and then take a month off and then maybe go back on for another 8 weeks. Okay. So those are my recommendations. So truly nutrition is one of the key elements to building and maintaining a strong immune system. But as I mentioned at the beginning of our session, that our body systems talk to each other and there's different ways of affecting your immune system. So food, supplements is one way, but also just taking care of your body in other ways can help maintain, protect, and boost your immune system. So here's some lifestyle changes that I just want to mention to you. So some healthy tips. One is to get outside. Today is a perfect example with the sunshine. So this is one of the best ways to get vitamin D. You want to get 20 minutes of exposed skin, so arms and legs, the big parts of our body with no sunscreen on it, just 20 minutes before you burn, because what it does is sun hits our skin, the cholesterol in our cells through a very complicated process that involves our liver and our kidneys, turns that into vitamin D, and that's how sunshine creates vitamin D for us. So get outside. It makes us feel better having the warmth on us anyways. Also, it's the production of the sun hitting our eyes, produces melatonin, helps us sleep better. So it's amazing. And just whatever you can do to get outside and have some movement. Again, get that lymph moving, right? So whatever you can move it. And just any activity you enjoy doing, even if it's just wheeling around, walking your dog, going to the park, get some movement or have a massage to get that lymph moving. And just engage in whatever your favorite activities are, because I talked about stress and stress causing stress hormones, cortisol, which causes inflammation and weakens the immune system. So the more you can have activities that you enjoy every day, just to reduce your stress levels is so important. And the next slide there is get some sleep. This is just so important to overall health. When you don't sleep well, it's disruption in our sleep is actually a form of stress. So even in our sleep, if we're tossing and turning or waking up every couple of hours or every half hour, your body interprets that as a form of stress and you're getting cortisol released through the night. So again, it's that cortisol, inflammation, weakened immune system. So you really want to get some really good night's sleep after having a lovely day out in the sun, enjoying your favorite activities. And that's it. That was my presentation for boosting your immune system. Any questions?
Oh, sorry, Rebecca.
No, I'll wait. You guys can listen.
Okay. I just had a quick question. So, Joe, what if we do get sick? Is there any food you recommend while we're sick to try to speed up the healthy, process?
What I would recommend, get a big pot of water with, put in some green tea bags, and then put in some honey, and then put in some ginger, the herb, put in some turmeric, and get a lemon or two, squeeze it in there, and then just plunk the whole lemon in there when it's cut up, and let that boil. And then just let that like simmer for a good 10-20 minutes. Drink it because of the anti-inflammatory properties in there between the ginger and the lemon and the green tea and the turmeric is one of the best things you can do. And it's also very comforting. That's what I would do. And no sugar. Don't feed the infection. Sugar feeds bacteria. So if you are sick ever, stop eating sugar, because all you're doing is making it stronger, because you're giving it food, you're giving it power.
Raw honey is good.
Mm-hmm.
But my question was, we're talking about salt. I don't know why this is echoing. And I use Himalayan sea salt. I've heard that that's good. I mean, I don't go over with it, but I'm just wondering, because I know that refined white salt, like the refined salt, table salt is really bad for you. But your thoughts on like sea salt,
Oh, okay,
like the
so
Himalayan sea salt?
I heard it. Okay, cut out. I think there was 2 questions there, or just one?
It was just about the salt, because you had something saying that salt is not good for you, and I agree that the refined salt isn't good for you, but I've heard that Himalayan sea salt.
I'm cutting in and out. Sorry. Yeah, so 70 to 75% of our salt intakes comes from processed foods. If you stop eating processed foods, then any salt that you're ingesting is what you are putting on in your own dishes. So doing sea salt, Himalayan salt, is the best form to do it, because that has the minerals still contained in it. When you're getting, table salt, it's been bleached and deodorized. It's had any minerals that were in it naturally removed. So if you can be in charge of salt intake and only have a teaspoon a day, then yeah, the best form is like a sea salt or a Himalayan salt that has minerals too.
Just gonna, I guess, more of a comment. So, I mean, Joanne has presented with us now. This is our 3rd presentation, and each one of them has been like really like eye-opening and really informative. And I just wanted to say, Joanne, that after last presentation, I believe, I cut out sugar out of my morning and evening coffee. And now, instead of, I need a sweet hit, what I do in the mid-morning is I actually make an herbal tea with a spoon of natural honey. So,
oh, good for you. That's amazing. Yay, perfect. And how do you feel?
you know what? It's great. It's a little bit by a little bit. I mean, I think, a lot of times people get overwhelmed. I mean, especially when so if I'm listening to you, and I mean, you have all this information, and you obviously have a really well-tuned diet, and you're really in touch with the things that are good and bad. And I think as like the average user, it can be overwhelming and a little bit frightening, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because you start to think of all these changes you need to make, and and you think about your own diet, and you think, oh my God, like I eat white bread, and I had pizza the other day, and then you just sort of like get overwhelmed. And I think a lot of times we end up like then not doing anything because it seems like too big of a mountain to climb. So my approach is really just, little bit by little bit, like do what you can manage, but any improvement or any change towards improvement is a good one, right? So
yeah, and that's why I said often it's not what you're adding, it's what you're removing. So our diets are all ease, convenience. We're stressed out, we're busy, so we kind of grab and go. So it's like if you can remove the sugar from your coffee, from your tea, eliminate any kind of candy bar, but replace it with healthy dark chocolate. So it's just sometimes removing little things throughout the day that can actually have a massive impact on your diet. And once you've mastered that, then think about, starting with your breakfasts and redoing those. Because trust me, it is overwhelming. It took me years to really change my diet over. And I thought I was eating well. That was the joke. Like I actually thought I had a healthy diet. And then I went to school to become a nutritionist. I'm like, oh, I'm not doing this very well. And for me personally, for my own system to learn what worked and what didn't, to really hone in and define it, took years to do. So I don't mean to scare anybody, but start, as you're saying, Dan, like eliminate stuff, you feel better, and then start to try new things. Introduce, new foods or supplements.
I actually do have a question about breakfast. In our previous presentation that you did, I don't know if it was the one last month or before, but you mentioned about sort of loading up on protein in the morning for breakfast. And then I'm just thinking about, so like, I think you said like no fat Greek yogurt, but then I also like maybe a little fruit with my yogurt. So that is sort of a bit of a natural sugar boost. So is it okay to add that little bit of sugar in with the yogurt, even though it's supposed to be just protein?
Okay, so what I'd say, first of all, yogurt's great, but go for the full fat. Do not go for no fat products at all.
Oh, okay.
So fat is what gives our food like that, gives us that sense of satisfaction, satiety, right? Like that's why it makes it just so yummy, right? But when you remove fat, it's bland. So manufacturers will add more salt and sugar to give that food flavor. So you are so much better off having a full fat yogurt. You're gonna really enjoy that 3/4 cup or cup you're gonna have. You're gonna fill you up, and then it's okay to add blueberries, blackberries, strawberries, because it's natural fructose sugar. It's not the refined sugar that I was referring to. It's the refined processed stuff that wreaks havoc on our system. So yeah, full fat yogurt with natural berries and maybe some pumpkin seeds. Awesome.
Cool.
I have a question. Is a multivitamin good enough? Like, I don't want to take like a bunch of pills in one day to substitute for all my vitamins that I might be missing.
Yeah, if you know your diet is a bit like hit and miss, and maybe you're not getting 1 to 2 fruits and 5 or more vegetables, then yeah, then a multivitamin is like insurance for the day. So you know you're getting all your basic nutrient needs met. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Now I wanted to ask about is it curcumin? You said that's the supplement. So I actually have high blood pressure, so I take blood pressure medication. So
Oh, you're
I know
muted.
that you mentioned omega.
Oh,
Sorry about
sorry.
that. My all right. Anyway, there we go. Now we're back. Sorry about the curcumin supplement. So I take blood pressure medication. So for example, omega-3s I don't take anymore. I used to, but then they're blood thinner as well. So what about things like curcumin? Like are all anti-inflammatories, do they also sort of act as blood thinners, and should I be aware of that? Or
Yeah, curcumin does have natural blood thinning properties too. So yeah, you've really got to be careful if you're on any kind of medication. Yeah.
so as you've said many times, consult with a physician before sort of getting
Yeah.
into a regimen of supplements.
And maybe it's, I was saying 2 to 4, maybe you can just do 1, right?
Yeah.
1 fish oil, 1 curcumin pill, but always check with your doctor first, because I don't know what dosages you're on, for example.
Yeah.
But you know what's good for you for high blood pressure is celery.
Celery with almond butter.
Sure. 2 stalks.
Same.
Yeah, 2 stalks of celery a day would be good for your blood pressure.
Well, I'll tell you a little story. I mean, and when I was in the hospital for a long period of time, and of course, a few years ago, when you're in the hospital, whatever diet you have is really regulated, so you don't have a lot of sodiums and anything like that. And my actual blood pressure was down, and I didn't really even need to take supplements or blood pressure pills. But then, after being back in the real world for 6 months to a year, my blood pressure went back up again, which is part of just life and food and just living, you know what I mean? But it can be done. I mean, obviously, what you put in your body does actually have an impact on the results.
Yep, it's amazing. That's a great example. Yeah.
I had one more question, Joe. So you mentioned green tea. I recently started drinking matcha, and is matcha does it have a lot of the same good properties as green tea, or is it different?
No, it's the way it's produced. It's more intense. It's like the last I forget, it's the last few weeks or last couple of months of the growing process. They shade it and then it makes it more intense, and then they powder it. So yeah, no, it's great for you. It's still got lots of antioxidants in it. Yeah, it's just gonna have a different taste to it, or just even the fact that you're like blending it as a powder as opposed to a tea bag. Some people don't like that texture of it, but yeah, no, it's great. It's all good antioxidants for you.
It's good in chia seed pudding.
There you go.
All right. Well, are there any other questions for Joanne before we finish up for today? Well, once again, Joanne, thank you. I mean, by far, I really enjoy your presentations. I think that for somebody with low mobility like myself, it's great to think about, all elements of sort of holistic health. But obviously, what we put in our bodies, if we don't have a lot of ability to move, is a really important part. So I've really appreciated everything that you've
Yeah.
taught us over these times.
My pleasure. My pleasure. Thanks, guys.
All right. So next week, guys, we're back with Nathan is with us again to do some yoga and some mindfulness. So looking forward to that. And our series, actually, this is the last month for the series, the wellness series so far. We may be doing other things in the future, so keep your eyes open. But right now, this is our last time we'll be seeing Joanne. So I thank you, Joanne, very much.
Very welcome. Have a good summer, everybody.
Thanks, Joe.
COVID free
Thank you.
summer.
you.
You're welcome.
Bye-bye.
You guys.
Bye.